All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Greatly appreciated. We are back here for part two of the Monster Factor 3 recap. Part one is on Pardeep's channel, Arm Wrestling News. So make sure you get over there and subscribe if you want to hear the lead up to what we're talking about right now. We're working in conjunction. So, Pradeep, I know you caught the event. We talked a little bit about the undercard and some of the other things associated with the production. I guess we're going to get into the main card now. So, any specific match you want to start off with?
Let's start off with your match, man. I wanted to see you win, Paul. What happened there? What happened there?
Listen. Let's listen. Pablo, and coming into this match, people are like, oh, like Paul's hot right now. He just beat Heracli and da, da, da. Now, listen, I'm not taking anything away from Heracli. I mean, his accolades are incredible, but Pablo is the real deal, and I know that. I know that. I had never grabbed him prior, but I see everything that he does. And a lot of people were looking at like um, deceiving data, like looking and say, "Oh, John toyed with him." Well, John didn't really toy with him; he
Yeah.
just stayed outside of him. And then when he hooked him, he went A side. And I know John. I think John supported me in this match and everything else. But I think, to be honest, I think that Pablo is just leveling up too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So when I came into the match, not knowing, I mean, I understand his style, but I'd never grabbed his hand. So I don't know what his containment's like. So I'm scouring the internet and talking to, common opponents and, Paul Talbot, he's pulled him a bunch of times. So, plan A was a low hand outside side pressure top roll. Um, and he contained that with no problem. That's not necessarily my forte, but I was coming into the match, with the intent of doing anything possible to win the match. Um, so that meant plan A, plan B, plan C, rather than going to my ace three times in a row. Let's test the waters and see where it's at. And that can be the tricky thing when you don't have data on somebody and you're pot committed and you're willing to throw the Hail Mary. So the low hand top roll in round one, no go. He contained it down by the pin line. And once he contained it, pronation gone right away, no way to drop into a hook there. Second round, mistake on my part was trying to hook him without the straps. That's hindsight being 2020. Um, he's just too big of a thumb pad and too much rotation. Once I got into the hook, my fingers bunched up and he was able to open my fingers in the hook with his rotation. So I wasn't able to make that as competitive as I would have liked to. And then third round, talk to Chance, and the third option was posted reverse top roll, defensive top roll. And Pablo does a great job of getting his pinky into your wrist joint and then also getting his index finger up to your index knuckle. So he's containing both low and high. And I was banking on maybe being able to get him to flatten out and reverse top roll if he would come my way, but he just contained it high. So that one looked really lopsided in the third round. I think a lot of that had to do with the lane that I picked. In hindsight, after pulling with him and even talking to him, he said the same thing that I had already garnered. He said, "You are best in a hook in the strap." And if I had it all to do again, I don't think I would have beaten Pablo because Pablo, in my opinion, that day was the second strongest person in the room, next to Corey. And that's pretty much either arm.
Yeah.
Even after pulling with Corey, like Corey let him have a good setup, and either arm he was giving Corey problems. Like he's really, really, really like the real deal, and he's the real deal, not just at like 240. He made 240 and he still looked huge. And then the next day he recovered weight and he didn't look that much different. He's a big, strong dude, and he's really, really good. I think if I had to gauge it, I would put him at that Marcio Todd Hutchins level. As a matter of fact, that he mentioned.
Man, again. It's getting,
Back.
man,
Where did I leave off?
I don't
I
know.
was rambling
So
for a
you're
while.
saying that he's on Marcio and Todd Hutchings level.
Yeah,
Then my
if I
panic.
had to predict it, I think that's where he's at. Which lets you it's a glimpse into those guys being like 242, 230, 225 guys, those Marcio and Todd. But they're also guys that could easily be ranked the same at the super heavyweight level.
Mhm.
Now, like Pablo's not like stature wise, he's not super tall. I think he might be like 6'2", but like his hand size is good. His hand strength is really good. His arm strength is really good. And I was really impressed with his setup game. I was banking on being able to, get a good setup to expose some things. He did a really, really good job of loading without like telegraphing it. So his static setup was really, really good. Shut a lot of things down. Like as far as dictating went, I think the only thing that I could have dictated in hindsight was forcing a hook over because he wasn't really defending. He was kind of like very, very great protection against the top rope.
Yeah, one observation that I had in this match, and before that match, I messaged you that like be aggressive, bro. It has always worked for you. You have been winning matches of aggressiveness. But my observation is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, aggressiveness didn't really work in this match because once you got him on this side, it looked like you had nothing for him. But in the second and third round, in this side, it looked like you got something. And even Engin Terzi mentioned about it, like Paul should have been. I don't know what exactly he meant by that and what mistakes you could have done there. But Engin was saying, I'm not sure if he watched it or not, that if Paul was more patient in this position, like try to hold him there for a little bit more, then he could have turned that match around. So can you tell us what he meant
No,
about by saying that?
Angan nailed it really. I mean, Angan saw it before I even ever mentioned it like online. I needed to be in a hook with a tight strap to protect my fingers. And I needed to just be able to wait and take the match to deep water. But again, when you come into a match with no data, you got to kind of figure that out on the fly. With John, like if you compare the match with John, top roll option first round, John contained it very similarly, you know. And then for me, there was no plan C against John. It was like post top roll or hook, you know. So the second and third round against John, the third round was the same thing, only harder. In hindsight, the best lane in that match, live and learn, would have been, going to hook, going to hook, going to hook, and let's see who can last longer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but you live and learn. There was a strength gap too. So like, let's be serious. He's the stronger human. You know, at the end of the day, hand to arm, he's the stronger human. In order for me to compete, it would have had to come down probably to some level of endurance.
And after the match, you mentioned that you believe you are a 209 guy. This weight cap is way too much for you because you. Let's be honest,
Well,
you were arm wrestling a guy who's like 20 years, more than 2 decades of experience, and 20 pounds heavier than you. Like it
well,
means something.
it's funny because like you made the video and I saw somebody post something about excuses and I'm like, bro,
Yeah, that's what
you're
I
not
was up talking about.
you're not understanding what I'm saying. I said I need to stay in my weight class, but I can see maybe how that was interpreted weird.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's okay. You cut to 209. Now you have to face a guy at 242 or 240 who's cutting from 260. So now I have to go and eat ice cream and donuts and hope for the best. What I'm saying is I need to stay where I can make 209 all the time. Not necessarily am I accepted the match. Let people like, he's bigger, he's bigger. So, no, that's irrelevant. I accepted the match,
Yeah.
and I that's on me. If I'm choosing to pull a bigger guy, I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm saying for my future, I don't want the body fluctuation. You know what I mean? So like you look at some of the stuff like John Brzezinski, I tried to get as big as I possibly could. I was like 232 and I felt terrible, but I was strong at that point. Similar thing with Ron Bass. For me, it's just easier. Let's stay around that 215 mark where your body wants to be and stop force feeding for bigger matches. You know what I mean? So to me, it's the balance thing. And really what I was referring to is I need to stay in that 209 lane and focus on being as strong as I can be there rather than trying to cut the weight and then get really big for this big guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes it so much trickier because I think I weighed in with clothes at like 227, and that's because I was eating pizza and donuts and ice cream and all the stuff that I don't eat to try and be as big as possible to close that weight gap. And now here we're going to go back to East versus West, and I gotta clean my diet up and get like, 8 of
210.
those pounds. I don't really want to do that
Yeah.
as much as I'm doing it now. But it's just how things shake out in the United States sometimes, like where the matches are offered and what people want to see. So, but I
Yeah.
guess like with East versus West growing, um, it's it it's more beneficial to focus on that weight class
Weight cap.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
And good thing, good times are coming, Paul, because now, earlier, the only thing, and even till date, for some arm wrestlers who have done more on YouTube and social media and probably a little bit less on the actual arm wrestling table, I would give one example of Ryan Bowen. Like, Ryan has done great stuff on the table as well, but if we try to compare his YouTube and his actual accomplishments on the table, I would say YouTube is higher. For those people, even now, being as heavy as you can, because then you get to arm wrestle a lot more people, and you can still, if you're not the elite level, while being 100 kilos, you can still arm wrestle guys who weigh 80 kilos and are on the top. So you never run out of options. You only have more options to arm wrestle with if you are going heavier. So for those people, it is still a viable option. But since the sport is getting big, and thanks to Engin Terzi, who has been focusing a lot on lighter weight categories as well, I think less and less people would have to gain a ton of weight just because they want to compete with a bigger name, more famous name, and more accomplished arm wrestler. Because this is what people have been doing. Like, it was a wise decision, and maybe still for a couple of years from now as well, it is going to be a wise decision to get as heavy as possible, because you are going to get more popular matches when you're heavier compared to when you are lighter. But I think that time is going to change. And since you mentioned that, it is good that you mentioned the comment that was saying you're making excuses, because I was also thinking about bringing that up. And I'm like, how is that an excuse? An excuse is, well, if I had gotten good sleep, I would have won. Well, if I did this correctly, I would have won. That to me is an excuse. But you're saying that you should stay away from that weight class. That is the biggest respect, the best way to accept defeat. That you're saying that that guy is so good, I want to stay away from his weight class. I didn't see any excuse there.
Right. Well, listen, I mean, excuses can also be about intent. There's zero intent for me to make an excuse because I won't be a slave to them. I've said it before.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy way to live. Like you lose, you can choose to do with it what you want, and it sucks. Losing sucks, period. End of day. Hate it. More than anything, hate it. But you got to do it. You got to take it and turn it into motivation. I had a great lift yesterday. It's a positive thing for me. And I said to Pablo, thank you for the opportunity. I learned a lot, and I did. I learned that for the Rustam match, I absolutely have to be stronger in several angles. Period. End of story. So now let's go to work on them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't get that data. Maybe I missed something, and I'm more ill prepared for an upcoming match. It's all how you choose to deal with it. But excuses are never ever going to make you better. You never will. Accepting it and understanding the factors that maybe caused the loss or the things that you could have controlled, that's the only way to grow. So like Ryan Bowen says, chase your losses. I've like talked with him about that in the past, and I don't identify with it from his specific perspective, the way he goes after matches, but I do. The concept is really solid. You
Mm.
know, like welcome the losses. Don't be afraid of them. Learn from them. If all you do is win, all you do is admire yourself.
Yeah.
If you lose, you pick yourself apart.
Yeah, a loss or any setback in life is going to help you always, as long as you prepared. You did everything you could have done in your own capacity. If you go in a situation totally unprepared, and then if
Yeah.
you lose, I don't think that loss is going to teach you anything. But if you did everything you can and you thought you're going to win and still you lost, then that loss is going to teach you a lot. So let's talk about the next match, BJ Fokakis versus Chan Shaw. Man, that was an amazing, amazing performance from Chance, especially after seeing how BJ Fogakis was able to make a comeback and beat you after losing. I think you beat him in the first round, then he beat you in the next three.
It was 3-2.
Okay, 3-2.
I lost to BJ 3-2, and I didn't get pinned. I fouled out 3 times.
Okay.
Terrible, terrible. So yeah. Anyway, but Chance. So I did not have an outside lane against me, or I did not feel one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So came into the match saying I got to hook this guy. Right. His lever length is too long. I never challenged the outside in the straps. After seeing Chance's setup, I think maybe there was a lane there, but Chance is so good at controlling the strap. Like the way he bunches his fingers, the way he places his fingers, and his static back pressure is really, really something special. Because you're talking about it, Chance's lever is no longer than mine, and BJ's is way longer. the way he controlled the top was super impressive. And I remember saying to him, like in the match, like, or before the match, like, what are you going to do here? What do you know, what's, you got any options here? And he was like, well, I think I can, I think I can stay outside and strap. And I said, you should hook him. You really should hook him. Like, people don't give you credit for your hook. You don't give yourself credit for your hook. You don't have confidence in your hook. Go hook him. If you get control, go hook him. And he did. And to me, that was super. And he felt great when he was in there. So I'll tell you what, Chance Shaw has an inside game, whether people want to believe it or
Yeah.
not. It's just not his ace. And I think once he gets comfortable in, I mean, we saw him with Saunders.
Yeah.
The best
First
match that
round.
they had was inside. And we know how good Saunders is. I mean, holy crap, look what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chance was impressive for sure.
Yeah. What impressed me the most in that match is Chanshaw remembers his match with Ron Bath. Ron was like, he took him here in the first couple of rounds, and then Chance single surge like dominated him the first couple of rounds, and then he got gassed out. But still, even after that, even after knowing his endurance is not the best in the world, still he was literally holding BJ there, right in the center. Like, he could have pinned him, at least in the final rounds, he could have pinned him, but he was holding him there and then pinning him. That showed like he was like a level, good level or two above BJ Fagagas that day.
He's still young. He's like 24. He's only getting better. The guy, and it's easy to look at him and say, well, does he train? He's bigger. He gained weight. Chance has got really good genetics, and he's got a really high arm wrestling IQ. He's only going to get better.
Let me ask you a question, Paul. I probably after this question you're going to have minus one friend. You have way too many friends in arm wrestling community. I want realistic prediction. Your answer. What do you believe? Chanshaw versus Derek Smith. Who wins that super match if it happens like 2 months from now? I think Chance
Probably
takes
Derek.
it.
Probably Derek.
You're saying
I
Derek?
think something tells me. I think it could go either way, but something tells me that if Derek and Chance had a match, Derek would come in like he's playing for the World Series. And it really comes down to can Chance, because Derek's lever is even longer than BJ's. To me, it's like who can control the top.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I'd actually like to see it go into a hook. I think it's more interesting there. But I think like anatomically, that's a really stylistic problem for Chance. It's not outside the realm of possibility, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was totally wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling Derek would come in like the best version of himself ever, and 6'9" and like 400-pound monster or something. I just think that lever is going to be really tough to deal with for somebody with a lever like the length of Chances. But again, I could be totally wrong, but my gut just says that. Chance might be mad at me. Chance, I'm sorry. I'm not totally fucking.
The same long lever thing. This is why I predicted BJ to win this match. Like, Chanshaw has had trouble against long lever guys, Wayne Withers, Sandre Celis, and I think I'm forgetting one more name. That was Chance's kryptonite, a long lever top roll guy. But
Yeah.
not anymore. As we have seen, he kind of won that match easily despite the size difference. So I think that's about enough for this match. Next match, Craig Tullier versus Brendan Elcessor, match of the night.
Or Brandon, like, I don't want to say Brandon's underrated because it's really not. Like, he's very active. He's done the social media stuff. But like, if you haven't really dug into him, you don't realize how much heart he has. So the backstory to that whole match was Brandon was cutting down from about 218 to 200. We met our connectors, the second leg of our flight. And I asked him how much he weighed. He said 210. And at that point, I thought it was a 205 cap. I was like, oh, yeah, you're good. You're golden. And we were landing, and then there was going to be about 5 hours after we landed, and an hour of that would be driving. He would have to cut the weight. So he had roughly 4 hours until we had to be there for 4:30 weigh-in. So he went straight to the sauna, started getting the text messages. I don't think I'm going to make it. Michael gets the text message, and he's like, Paul, what the hell's going on? I thought you said this guy's professional. I'm like, he is. I've never seen him not make a cut. I've seen him make crazy cuts. There's no way he's not going to make it. Cut like half an hour before, and they were talking about doing a 2-pound clothing allowance, not stripping everybody down. And one of the competitors, I don't know who it was, somebody said, no, we want it straight weight, which I understand that for sure. And it got down to the crunch time, and he was 3 pounds over. And Michael said, I'll give you to the end of weigh-ins to weigh in. He came and he was like, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if this is worth it. And I'm like, Brandon, like, go get some Epsom salt. Go with your girlfriend, get Epsom salt. I'm gonna pour a bath right now. Like, you didn't come this far. You know what I mean? And he wound up making weight right on the dot. And I really think that him pushing through that is what pushed him through the match. I think what would have happened was if he didn't make the weight, he would have forfeited the title automatically, Craig, and they would have pulled basically just for fun.
Yeah.
If I'm him and I'm pulling for fun in that fourth round with my wrist the whole way back, I don't know if I'm pulling like he did. But I mean, talk about gutting it out. He pulled Craig stylistically perfectly, as we kind of trained for that low hand post up and keep him flat. He actually took his hand in the first 2 rounds, but then he eventually gassed. And then if you haven't watched that match, that's the match to watch from the card.
Yeah.
Super, super huge, gutsy match. There was one thing in there that I didn't like. You don't like me to, I don't normally talk about the weird negative stuff, but I think it was round 3 or round 4. It was a very pivotal round. There was an elbow foul called before Craig pinned Brandon off the back. I saw it. I was yelling for it. The down ref called it. They awarded the match to Brandon, which I think would have put Brandon at 2-1. I think if I recall correctly. And Craig, you get one challenge per match, not per round, but per match. So Craig challenged it, and they didn't have the video. The video didn't come up. It failed or something.
Yeah.
So head ref made the decision that we're going to run the match back. And I was like, what? I said, in what? I'm like, in what world? Yeah. In what world does the ruling on the field not stand? The referee made the call. Why we don't get a do-over? I remember saying, I looked at Michael, and Michael said, I'm leaving it up to the head ref. And I was just like, that is not how it's done in the NFL. Like, if the evidence is inconclusive, the ruling on the field stands. You always default to the ref's first call. And they ran the match back. And I'll tell you what, man, that could have cost that match. And in the moment, I'm cornering Brandon. I'm trying not to be negative. But what was going through my head was a loss, and it being based off of that. Yeah. And then everything being contested. Thankfully, it didn't go that way. But I think you'd be seeing a whole lot of backlash about that. Just a weird undertaking there. It's crazy that they missed the match too. So, but yeah, that was interesting. And luckily, Brandon was able. I just told Brandon, I said, just win the match, just win it. Yeah. And he came back and did it.
Yeah, I think after the restart, Craig fouled once again. So it was the second foul, and Brandon still ended up winning that round. I think this is what happened. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I thought Craig didn't win a round.
Maybe I'm wrong. But these are the things that I catch a lot of heat for pointing out, because I did call it out in my video. I did say that when Craig did that elbow foul and the referee called it as an elbow foul, and Craig was saying, no, I pinned him. And the referee was like, he made this gesture. He was like, it was this much out. He literally did that. The referee said it was this much out. If you saw it was this much out, and after that you didn't have the video review, why are you going to reverse your own decision? Like, if he was like, the referee was like, Luke was like, man, I think it was a foul. Then he reversed his own decision. It would have made some sense. But he was saying that it was this much out. And then still he reversed his decision. I thought that was crazy, man. Anyways, let's talk about the next match.
That could have been much worse too, Thankfully it played out the way it did. But I mean, it would be hard not to have a weird taste in your mouth if you Brandon after that, if it didn't go the way it did.
I think I've called out Luke for his reffing in all of the Monster Factory events. First thing that I like about him, he's strict. If you give him a rule, he's going to follow that. Except for that one shoulder rule. This time he was squaring the shoulders. Last time I called it out, and I was like, watch any of the Monster Factory 2 events. I think there was one main card match. For some reason, I watched the undercard matches, and he was always squaring the shoulders of both athletes. But as soon as the main card started, he completely forgot. He literally did not even ask the arm wrestlers, not even once, to square the shoulders. Whoever was on his left side, he tapped down his shoulder, squared the shoulder, and whoever was on the right, he just left it. Like, He didn't, not even once did he say that square your shoulders. That's what I called him out for. Hopefully he saw that video. This time he was squaring the shoulder of both the athletes. All right, so
Yeah,
we're
it
talking
was consistent.
we're going to talk about Corey versus Cody later on,
Mhm.
but before that, Michael versus Pablo on the left arm. Did you think that Michael ever had any chance winning this match?
I did. I thought I mean, look, Pablo can be in the past a slow starter. They had practiced together before. Michael had some success with the shoulder roll. It was going to be about timing and how hard could he hit it. The
Hmm.
first round when Pablo caught it on his bicep in probably the worst position of all of them, it was pretty evident that that he was strong enough to stop it. You stop the first one, you're probably going to stop the next couple,
Yeah.
and he did. And as the rounds went on, he even progressed into kind of coming out on it a little bit. So yeah, Pablo, too strong, man. Again, probably second strongest guy in the building.
And Paul, one thing that in the first part on my channel that I was thinking about talking about what we YouTubers should do. Like for once, I thought, man, Michael and Rebecca, they are themselves not taking enough interest, at least as much as they should, in promoting this event. So, like, should I make 5, 6, 7, 8 videos about this event? And I eventually ended up making only one video promoting the event, which I think was absolutely incorrect. No matter what the promoter is doing, like, this is something, arm wrestling is something that is paying my bills. It is
Mm-hmm.
helping me advance my career, both financially, socially,
Sure.
everything. Like, it is making me a better person. So from now onwards, I think it is my responsibility, and I'm going to do that whether the promoter takes enough interest or not. I believe it is my responsibility, just because I have this YouTube channel and these promoters
Yeah.
have given me enough things, enough matter to talk about. So I think we should be promoting it
Well, it's a
regardless.
symbiotic thing too. You gain from it, they gain from it.
Yeah.
The arm wrestling gains from it. It's good.
Mhm. So the final match, I think this was one of the most important matches. I was looking out for it because it was number one and number two in North America on the left arm. Corey West versus Cody Spermerit. Who did you have picked in this match?
Corey, I'm like a firm believer that Corey is like the future of face of North American arm wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because he's a super heavyweight and he's the only, I think, right now, super heavyweight that we have that can legit bang in the top five. Not saying that he can do it this moment. I think he proved left-handed that he can. Right-handed is he's not far behind, but he's like not even in his prime. You know, he's only getting better. He's only getting stronger. He's getting stronger in the gym. Just everything. You know, his trajectory is so good, and it stayed so consistent. You know, you can say, "Oh, the John match." Well, that's John. You know, like to me, like watching that match firsthand, that's a win. A 3-2 match where John is redlined. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care about the weight difference. To me, that's a win, you know, and I think it was a win for his career. And I think this is another huge win for his career because, you know, Cody's the best left hander that we have. And the way Corey, um, the way he handled that match was super impressive. Even in the third round, he started with his wrist back. Like he had his pronator intact, but like he's just still a little bit complacent in the setup. I don't know if he did it on purpose or if it just kind of happened that way. I was yelling, you know, flex your wrist, bend your wrist. He started like this and just boom, pronated right through his thumb pad. Super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Just and I'm to the point now with his left arm. My left's not bad, but the gap between he and I are so much that I can't even tell how strong he is. You know, but but I'll tell you what, there is not a stronger left arm um, in the West. Period.
Mm. Yeah.
So, and we're gonna get to see him in East versus West coming up here in 6, and
Against
I don't think
against
he's going to.
against Farid Osmanli. I think it is going to be amazing. And the John match was, I don't know how John is so good at that. John may have gotten slower. Of course, he has gotten slower over the years. But somehow, even though he's slow, he somehow has this magical ability to negate everyone's speed. Nobody is fast against John. You can see that
No,
Zoloe wasn't
no.
fast. Corey wasn't fast. Like, John slows everything down.
Yeah,
I don't know how he does
we
that.
talked about it. We talked about the reasons why. You know, like at this last event, and you know, I felt it when I pulled John. John has this really passive setup. He kind of puts his hand down, puts his elbow down, opens it up. He closes soft. You know, he doesn't feel real intimidating. And there's no static load, not sideways, not back pressure. The minute like when you are 1 or 2 seconds out from the match, you feel a click, and that's him locking his lat and locking everything up. The referee can't see it, but you sure as hell can feel it. And all the initiation, the idea of taking that hand the whole way to the thin line is like, oh, and then he does such a good job of setting that pronator. Like that thumb driven pronation is just different. I said I compared it to like a hydraulic feel. Like, like just it's just consistent. There's no jerkiness to it, and it just doesn't get weaker. And as you drain, it feels like it gets stronger and it gets deeper. And that's, I mean, he's amazing how he can be comfortable with that wrist back, but the pronation through the strap. They did it with Oleg, he did it with Pablo, just and stop it right there and eventually get it back. But John's special. We all don't have those tools.
Yeah. Coming back to Corey West, where exactly do you see him in the world rankings right now? Of course, everyone is making that comparison that Artem Morozov needed like 5-10 seconds to beat Corey West in the first round to beat Cody Merritt, and Corey didn't even feel him. He just took him straight to the pad. So is he actually, if we negate the strength and adjustments part that Artem Morozov could potentially make in the later rounds, is Corey West actually stronger than Artem Morozov? Fresh for fresh, because that match showed that he kind of is.
If we were to say sheer strength, I think he's left arm, he is sheerly stronger than Artem. Now, does that mean that Artem, can't beat him? No. I think Artem has a little bit, like his post and lever is probably longer than Corey's or close to it. I think that there are lanes where Artem is going to give Corey more trouble than Cody, of course. But I would think that Corey is the stronger human being. Very interesting match, and that's the one we need to see to really know where he sets. Right arm's a little bit harder to judge.
Were you on the fix this Sunday with Engin and Neil? So I think they talked about this match. Corey talked about this match, and I think he's going to face Artem Morozov. That match was in the talkings at King of the Table even before this. So Engin said that Artem told me that he isn't ready. He's not going to compete till about summer next year, probably June, July. But for some reason, he told Core Sports and Corey West that these two can have a super match. And I think the condition now is Corey West needs to beat Farid Osmanli. If Corey goes through Farid, then he's going to get Artem Morozov at East versus West, probably at the same event where John and Dennis are going to compete.
Right. Yep. That's what I'm tracking.
That's going to be amazing. Can you name any other arm wrestler other than that? Other than, I would say, let's give the biggest four names that I think are in the world right now: Artem Morozov, David Dadikian, and Alex Krodecha, Vitaly Laletin. These are the four dudes on the left arm. Of course, Levan isn't competing left-handed. Who else do you think has the potential to beat Corey in this world on the left arm?
Vitaly.
Vitaly, we already talked about him. Vitaly, David Dadikian, Artem Morozov, Alex.
Okay. I don't know. And a lot of that has to do with my lack of like proficiency understanding the left arm. We talked before about David Dedican, and I was a little bit, a lot of what you were telling me is stuff I heard the first time. So when it comes to left, I'm just getting my feet wet, understanding the international landscape. Right arm. So left arm is a big up in the air for me. I mean, the ones you named are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. And even these five guys, I think all five of them can beat each other. Like, they have the potential to mess up the rankings. But I don't see, maybe there is someone, but I don't see any other guy who has the potential to beat Corey. Corey, to me, can be top 5 in the world, especially in the best of 5 format. 6 rounds with a bigger frame, with lots of fat on the body. Maybe endurance can have a factor, but I think in best of 5, he can potentially be top 5 in the world, even now.
Yeah. He's that dude.
Yeah. So,
all right, buddy, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. I got to use the bathroom. We've been on for a minute. So I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune in to Arm Wrestling News. If you didn't see part 1 of this, it is on Pardeep's channel, Arm Wrestling News. Get over there. Make sure you subscribe and hit those notifications so you know when these things are coming out. Big thanks again to you, Pardeep, for the motivation getting this thing out there. And we will talk to you guys again soon.